In the pitch black of a New Mexico night, one of the most wanted men in the West moved on silent feet. He was days from the hangman's noose, having already gunned down 2 guards in a legendary jailbreak. Now, he was loose, a ghost in the territory. A lawman waited in the darkness. As the figure slipped into the room, he called out a simple question into the void. His last words, "¿Quién es? ¿Quién es?" 2 shots rang out and a body fell to the floor. The man who fell was Henry McCarty, better known as Billy the Kid. He was just 21 years old. How does a skinny orphan from New York become a lightning rod for violence, a symbol of the Wild West, and a legend who had already lived 3 lifetimes? The answer begins far from the dusty plains of New Mexico. He was born Henry McCarty on November 23, 1859, likely in a poor Irish neighborhood in New York City. Little is known of his biological father. The boy who would become a myth spent his childhood moving west with his widowed mother, Catherine, and her eventual husband, William Antrim, ending up in the New Mexico territory. Life as a young Henry was hard, but it was his mother's death from tuberculosis in 1874 that truly set him adrift. He was just 14 or 15. The stability was gone, replaced by a swift slide into crime, small thefts of food and clothing, a brief time in jail, and a quick first escape. He adopted the name William H. Bonney and earned his nickname, the Kid, for his youthful appearance. The shift from petty thief to wanted killer happened in Arizona Territory in 1877. After a brawl with a blacksmith named Frank Windy Cahill, who had been bullying him, the Kid drew his gun. He shot Cahill, killing him. Now a fugitive wanted for murder, Henry McCarty, alias William Bonney, was fully on the path of the outlaw. His flight led him to Lincoln County, New Mexico, where 2 powerful factions were locked in a vicious commercial and political feud. On one side, the established, powerful mercantile and political monopoly, led by Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan, known as the House. On the other, the young, aspiring English rancher, John Tunstall, and his partner, Alexander McSween. Billy the Kid found work with Tunstall, who treated his ranch hands with a respect the Kid had rarely known. Tunstall was a mentor, perhaps even a father figure. That alliance would prove deadly. The entire conflict erupted on February 18, 1878, when Tunstall was ambushed and shot in cold blood by a posse tied to the Murphy-Dolan faction. This murder was the line in the sand. Billy the Kid and Tunstall's other loyal hands were galvanized by vengeance. They formed a vigilante group called the Regulators. The Kid was now a central player in the Lincoln County War. On April 1, 1878, the Regulators ambushed and killed Sheriff William Brady and one of his deputies, a blatant act of reprisal against the House's allies. The violence spiraled, culminating in the 5-day Battle of Lincoln in July 1878, a furious shootout where the Regulators were besieged in McSween's burning house. McSween and several others were killed, but Billy the Kid, covered by the smoke and fire, escaped into the night. He was no longer just a hired gun. He was a leader of men, a cold-blooded killer in the eyes of the law, and a folk hero to those who opposed the powerful Murphy-Dolan ring. For the next 2 years, the Kid and his small gang lived as outlaws, rustling cattle and remaining defiant. The stories of his cunning and lethal skills spread. While the legend claims 21 kills, 1 for every year of his life, historians agree the actual number he confirmedly killed was closer to 6 to 9. One anecdote that illustrates his nerve happened in a Fort Sumner saloon, when a gambler named Joe Grant bragged he would kill the Kid. Billy, ever quick-witted, asked to inspect Grant's fancy new revolver, then subtly spun the cylinder, leaving only an empty chamber under the hammer. When he handed the gun back, Grant immediately aimed and fired. The gun clicked harmlessly. The kid didn't hesitate. He drew his own pistol and shot Grant dead, later explaining, "It was a game of two, and I got there first." But his luck ran out in late 1880 when he was captured by his one-time friend turned Lincoln County Sheriff Pat Garrett at Stinking Springs. The kid was convicted for the murder of Sheriff Brady and sentenced to hang. The final most explosive act of his criminal career came on April 28, 1881. Imprisoned on the second floor of the Lincoln County Courthouse, Billy the Kid executed a move of stunning audacity. While his two guards, Deputy James Bell and Deputy Bob Olinger, were preoccupied, the kid somehow slipped a hand from his cuffs, some say due to his small frame. He ambushed Bell, beat him with the heavy cuffs, and shot him with the deputy's own pistol. He then grabbed Olinger's double-barreled shotgun. When Olinger ran back from lunch, having heard the shot, the kid, standing on the second-story balcony, yelled down his final taunt, "Look up, old boy, and see what you get," before blasting Olinger with both barrels. Billy the Kid rode out of Lincoln, a free man and the most famous fugitive in America. The escape was a humiliation to Sheriff Garrett, setting the stage for their final, inevitable meeting. For 3 months, Garrett hunted. The trail led him to Fort Sumner, New Mexico, and the ranch of Pete Maxwell, a mutual acquaintance. On the night of July 14, 1881, Garrett waited in Maxwell's darkened bedroom, questioning him about the kid's whereabouts. Billy the Kid, barefoot and carrying a knife to cut some meat from a carcass, unexpectedly entered the room. Seeing the shadowy figures, he instinctively called out, "Quien es?" Garrett recognized the voice. He fired twice. The first bullet struck the kid above the heart. And so, Henry McCarty, Billy the Kid, was dead at 21. Yet, controversy immediately clouded Garrett's account. Was the kid truly armed with a gun, as Garrett claimed? Or was it a cowardly ambush of an unarmed boy? Garrett, fearing his reputation was ruined, quickly wrote a sensationalized biography, The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid, essentially cementing the legend he had created and then killed. Ironically, the lawman's book made the outlaw immortal. Today, the facts often get lost in the folklore. Billy the Kid became the quintessential anti-hero, representing the wild, untamed spirit of the frontier. He has been portrayed in countless films, from Roy Rogers and Paul Newman to Emilio Estevez, and is referenced in literature and music by names like Bob Dylan and Aaron Copland. The debate over his character, ruthless killer or charismatic victim of circumstance, continues, but this much is certain. A short life of violence, rebellion, and a daring final escape turned a small-time New York orphan into an enduring, magnetic symbol of the American West.